Well, eNCA understands the city will now start the process to have the courts set the contract aside. Well, our reporter Aldrin Sampear has been following the story, joins us this morning to explain it all to us. Aldrin, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I suppose let's firstly just establish what is Glad Africa. They are not the guys with the cling wrap, right? This is a different company.
It's not about the cling paper, yeah. So Glad Africa is a consultancy firm. So basically what the city has employed them to do is to overlook and oversee some of the infrastructure projects of the city of Tshwane. And the contract that was set around 12 billion rand. And now we know the Auditor General has said that that contract is irregular. And the reason why the city has gone into this contract is because, or the process leading up to the city going into this contract was that instead of going out for tender, what the city did is there's a regulation in terms of the Municipal Financial Act or even the Public Financial PFMA, which allows any government institution to use the outcomes of any other tender process that have been done by another government institution, and based on that, then appoint a service provider, and that's what has happened over here. And the argument from Dr. Musola, the city manager, was that they did that based on Section 32 of the Municipal Financial Act. However, though, what the Auditor General has found is that the Glad Africa contract has gone beyond the scope that the Development Bank of South Africa had adjudicated on. So based on that, that means that there should have been a new tender, because essentially what Glad Africa would be doing is a new service, and that new service was not part of the adjudication that was done by the panel of the Development Bank of Southern Africa.
So who stood to benefit from this? You know, who's implicated in the wrongdoing?
Well, as it stands at the moment, the Auditor General, of course, now having found that this is irregular, this means that there must be a further investigation. We understand that the SIU is also investigating this tender to find out exactly who is said to benefit from this tender. The BLF has accused the EFF, for instance. They've said that the EFF is said to benefit from this contract. They've argued as well that Musola was brought in to the city as the city manager by the EFF. The EFF, as you've heard, has disputed this, saying that Musola is not even an EFF member.
Yeah.
He was formerly,
he's
formerly with Ahang. But there's a document that was given to the council, the city council, and in that document, Musola says that he understands that how he has been brought into the city of Tshwane was based on an agreement between the DA and the EFF. I've asked Solim Simanga about this before, and Solim Simanga has disputed this. And now you have the EFF as well, Julius Malema, saying that we didn't bring this guy. This guy was brought by the DA. And the other argument that the EFF is making is that if it's found that there's corruption involved in this contract, Solim Simanga, as the mayor of the city of Tshwane, must also take responsibility.
Well, we know he's resigned, and we have to wonder, did that come, you know, sort of him knowing maybe what was coming with this? Or
there's no doubt whatsoever that the city manager, as well as the executive mayor of the city of Tshwane, would have known what the outcome of this Auditor General's report is. Yeah. And it could be that there were discussions within the DA caucus around how do you deal with this situation going forward. So now we have Solim Simanga, who will be focusing on his campaign. But what we should also take into consideration, anyway, it was expected that Solim Simanga would be stepping down to campaign to become the provincial premier of Gauteng. The EFF is saying that no, actually you had Helen Zille, who in 2009 was the city of Cape Town's mayor and was allowed to campaign to become premier, and she could do that all at the same time, while also being the party leader. So they're saying that they are rejecting those reasons. But here's the interesting thing about Solim Simanga resigning is the EFF had a press briefing recently, about 2 days ago, and at that press briefing, the EFF mentions that they will decide their course of action at a later stage. But here's the interesting thing about that, though. On the EFF's Twitter account, what was sent out is contrary to that. What was sent out is that the EFF will not be participating in the election of a new mayor. That was not in the statement that Julius Malema read. That the Twitter feed goes further on to state that the EFF will not bring in the ANC through the back door because the ANC was rejected back in 2016, and quoting Julius Malema saying this. And the assumption that I make on that is that there could have been a draft statement that was given to the person who's dealing with the online feed of the EFF, and that person tweeted out everything that was on that draft statement, only to find out that the draft statement has now been changed, and now the EFF has taken a different position to say that we will step back and we will decide on a course of action at a later stage.
So what happens now with this entire Glad Africa thing?
What
What's
happens
the next step?
What happens now is on Thursday next week there will be a city council at the city council meeting. The city council meeting, there will be the financials of the city that will be presented, as well as the unqualified audit, at least that the city has received, as well as detailing all the irregular expenditures. You mentioned that 1.8 billion rand, and part of that 1.8 billion rand is the Glad Africa contract. And based on that, the city will then have to decide whether they want to whether they want a further investigation into this matter. As I've indicated, the SIU is already investigating, and then take further steps on whether to suspend the mayor or not, rather to suspend the city manager. And there have been attempts before to suspend the city mayor. And then, of course, as we indicated as well, that the city will start the process of nullifying this contract.
Okay, it's going to be a very interesting run-up to our elections.
It's going to be a bumpy run, yeah.
And what did that minister say about the small Anyana skeletons? All the bones are rattling. The bones are rattling. Thanks, Aldrin Sampear. You'll keep us updated on this story. Well, speaking of those skeletons, let's go